Welcome to Tech Talk for Meeting Planners. My name is Josh Felix.
I'm Richard Runge.
And on today's episode, we're continuing our roundtable discussion about our event industry during this pandemic. Before we get started, let's meet our panel. Start with Jay.
Hi, I'm Klein. I'm one of the owners of A+ Meetings and Incentives out of Miami, Florida. We've been around for 25 years. We do corporate meeting planning and incentive travel, basically for Fortune 500 companies.
Great.
Heiko?
Well, good afternoon, everybody, or good day, everybody. My name is Heiko Dobrikow. I'm the Executive Vice President of the Olas company. I'm also the General Manager of the Riverside Hotel. We have been around since 1935, family owned and operated.
Wow.
And we host many meetings and events, and I'm really looking forward to having a discussion today, what we're going to have to do in order to bring meetings and events back into the industry and our hospitality industry particularly.
Absolutely. Thank you. Kathy?
Hello, I'm Kathy Shelton, and I'm the owner of Resource Managers in Tallahassee, Florida, also the event manager for the Workers' Compensation Institute. We do small meetings and large meetings. We do the annual Workers' Comp Educational Conference each year, and basically small meetings from 50 to 8,000, I guess.
Thank you. Well, Richard, kick us off with our first question.
Okay. You know, as we know, the landscape changes every day. It seems like there's some new development, there's some new thing happening. But let me just start by asking, how much time in the last week have you spent on Zoom calls? We'll start with Jay.
Well, including this one, probably about 15 hours a week, something like that. None more valuable than this stuff.
Thank you.
Appreciate that one.
Heiko?
Ballpark figure the same thing. This is my third Zoom call today, so it's been busy. It's just a new norm in order to communicate effectively until some of these restrictions are being loosened. But yes, about 10 to 15 hours a week, same for me.
Okay, Kathy?
I've been doing 2 to 3 calls per week. We've been looking at different platforms for our events, and so it just depends on which ones we're taking a look at, and we probably do 3 to 5 per week, I guess.
Okay, all right. So let me ask this. You mentioned the word platforms. You hear that a lot right now. Virtual meeting platforms. What are you seeing? What are you hearing about different platforms for virtual events? We'll start with Kathy, since you mentioned it.
Hi. Okay, well, what I've found is there's just so many out there that I didn't realize that there were so many options and so many different ones that you could choose from. Some are similar and some of them do a lot more than others. We're looking for ones that will manage quite a few people, and also the pieces that cover continuing education credits for a lot of different entities and recordings. So there's just more than I realized were actually available. There's some AV companies like yourself, and they're doing them, and then there's also just Zoom platforms on up to some that will do 10,000 people.
Right.
So I just didn't realize that there were just so many to choose from,
Okay.
and with so many different options.
Jay?
Yeah, I mean, what we spend a lot of our time doing is evaluating a lot of the platforms, and we probably looked at about 20 of them and graded them on various criteria. But what I think people have to understand is it's partially about the technology platform, but I think it's much more about the services that go around it. That if you want a professional production, if you want a lot of people in, you want to make it look like it's a CNN kind of broadcast, sort of like this, you want to work with a company like AV Matters that is going to take all the various streams from the platforms and then push them out. Then you've got to look at things on the platform like registration, evaluation of who's been on there for continuing ed credits, interactivity, how people ask questions, how they get answers, how the chat works. There's a lot of specific things, but you really got to look at both the technology and the services that are being provided.
Okay, great.
Well, it's interesting. So my perspective is a little bit different because I'm the operator, right? So I'm the one that's gonna help produce what the vision is of the meeting planner and of the group. So we have been working with our technology company here in how do we create these hybrid type of meetings, because what we're noticing, there is a pent-up demand where people want to meet in person again, and they realize that virtual meetings per se will work probably 30 to 50 people, but if it goes higher than that, it becomes very different to manage that group. But we just had a group of PCMA meeting planners at our hotel, and they have actually told us that it is so important that we start meeting in person again, because a lot of their clients want to have in-person meetings. For them, very important is the aspect what the hotels are actually doing or the venues are doing in order to provide safety. And as we are on the technology component of our conversation, it was amazing to see as we were touring them through our hotel and we got into our entrance lobby and they saw the thermal cameras. And we just, for kicks and giggles, put a monitor up there, and they could actually see themselves how the thermal camera was picking up their temperature. And it was like a wow moment for them, right? And they went like, this is amazing. And then throughout our building, we have facial recognition. So if somebody with a temperature walks in, that maybe does a beeline left to the meeting facility, we can actually follow that person along and discreetly pull them aside and say, like, can we do a wellness check on you? But technology is going to be very important in that aspect.
Okay.
So Heiko, let me ask you that. Since you are in South Florida and GM for a hotel, are you starting to see more bookings taking place as we walk through these different phases, as Florida's starting to open up more and more?
I'm glad you asked the question. So from a transient segment and from a business travel, we see a lot more bookings coming up. There's a tremendous amount of inquiries currently, as the different meeting planners are wanting to understand what kind of safety measures have you put into your hotel, your resort, or your convention center in order to take care of our clients, right? And so that became, with our sales team, a very important discussion point. The meeting planners that were here in order to scout the different properties pretty much gave our property the gold standard. As we showcased even our UV technology that we have in the air handlers, where the air that is being circulated is being cleaned 99.9% and disinfected from any COVID-19 or H1N1 kind of virus that might be out there. And then when I call it the George Jetson sprayers, right, which are the hydrostatic sprayers that we have. It's a backpack, and you look like you're zooming around the meeting facility, disinfecting it after each meeting. They were just wowed by that we have this kind of an emphasis in technology in order to take care of the customer and give them a good feel for the meeting.
Okay.
Jay, let me ask you this. Okay, so with all those different safety protocols being added to hotels, do you think we need to handle attendees that are traveling from domestic or international, handling them differently?
Well, I'm not sure if you need to handle them differently, but I think that the domestic is going to come back before the international. I think hotels like Heiko's are doing a fabulous job, and most hotels are doing pretty well. The challenge for most of my clients is getting people to and from. So I think initially we'll see that the domestic meetings come back first. Initially, those that have a predominance of drivers. And then that'll be followed by short flights. And with the drivers, they'll probably do something hybrid. They'll bring people in virtually that would have had to fly. Then we'll get into the short flights, and eventually we'll get to the international. And it's not that I consider the international to be more dangerous particularly. It's just that right now people are concerned about the getting in and out of the country,
Correct.
Quarantines, things like that. So it may take a little while. But I do think those domestic meetings, especially when you control some aspects of the travel, will come first. For example, I've just booked, literally just signed a client that is doing a buyout of a hotel in Arizona, where they actually have private planes coming in so they can control that. They can control transportation. and they can work with the hotel to make sure they're doing all the sorts of things that Heiko's talking about. That kind of stuff I view as very safe and could be done almost immediately.
Perfect. Kathy, anything you want to add to that whole
No,
subject?
I agree with both of them. I think that the hotels are really on their game, the ones that I've dealt with anyway, as far as the different protocols that they have for being safe and the things that they have in place. And then I agree as far as the domestic coming back before the international as well. I'm hoping that it does, because our group is one that wants to be face to face, and so people miss that.
Okay, so let me ask.
I think I want to maybe I just want to piggyback what Kathy said, and Kathy is right. And I also think that many of the different planners will test smaller meetings first before they bring the mid-size meetings out and the larger meetings out, because they really want to get a sense of safety and security, that it's really being taken seriously. So nobody's probably going to put a big chance out there and putting a huge program out right away. But they say, hey, why don't we start with a regional program? And it might be just a drive-in program that they want to just structure and see how it's going to feel and how it's going to be. Because at the end of the day, the word to mouth will be our best marketing that we're going to have. And when then those attendees felt safe in the convention center or at the hotel or at a resort, I think that's going to help our industry tremendously.
So let me ask you this, Kathy. So we understand what the hotels are doing, but as meeting planners, what are some of the responsibilities of safety can we provide to the attendees?
Well, there's a lot of different things that you can do as far as, ensuring the attendees that these locations and venues are safe and what they are doing. You can also, we have the option of some of our vendors, they all have masks and they have different things that they can offer, wipes, things like that, sanitizing stations, things that we can also provide as sponsorships I think that the sales part on the hotel being safe and relieving some of the fear from the attendees and getting the word there that the people that you're dealing with really take it seriously and we take it seriously, really is what the key is to getting people to feel safe enough to come back. I know that some of the hotels are, taking things out, removing things out of people's sleeping rooms. They're sanitizing in between guests a lot more. They're even removing some of them are even removing phones out of the rooms. So it's just, I think the fear that the attendee has and reassuring them that the meeting company and the hotel is doing everything that they can possibly do and have gone to great lengths to provide the safety that they're looking for.
And Jay, what steps do you think in terms that we have to change, like registration, because that's a very interactive portion of a meeting, or receptions? Are those things of the past?
Well, I think we have to look at every aspect of it. We, as Kathy was saying, we have to be quarterbacks of all the various vendors. The transportation, the hotel, any entertainment, anything, audio, visual, anything that comes in, we've got to make sure that everybody is doing everything they possibly can. When it comes to things like registration, some aspects of social distancing, making sure that everything is touchless, having the sanitizing stations everywhere. Certainly food and beverage is a big area where we've got to be careful, holding as many events outdoors as we possibly can. Having no buffet lines, so it's all either stations or grab and go, pre-box kinds of things. We just have to look at every aspect of it and work with our partners throughout the entire chain and just make sure that our people are as safe as possible. And in addition, I do think the wellness checks give everybody some sense of comfort that people around them are doing the right thing.
That's interesting, Jay, and I concur with what you're saying. So for Kathy and Jay, I think it would be prudent for the hotels to actually showcase their health and sanitation protocols in a video vignette or video display, right? So that they can actually send it to their clients and say, listen, you have not been to the property or your attendees have not been to the property, but here is a 2-minute snippet in what they are actually doing so that the attendees will actually see what's being done. I think that's going to be very important. Last week, we brought a film crew in order to just follow along as we toured the property, and we showcased everything as the PCMA meeting planners were all here and what they were to experience, and that is not only in public space or in the meeting rooms, but it was in the guest rooms as well, so that they got a full gambit of the experience.
Yeah, and I agree with that as well. In fact, we have an event that's a 2-day event, much smaller than what we normally would have, but we did get from the hotel, not a video, but a list of the things that they're doing, and we have that on the site with the registration as well as, the description of the property. So, they do realize and they can see that, that they've made some changes.
Yeah, and I think that's important when you say, Heiko, video, because I think sometimes people can read a paragraph and it would outline everything that you're going to do, but they don't get the sense of like walking into the hotel or standing in the registration line, or how am I going to interact with that person at the front desk? What's going to happen there? And I think the video is really a great idea. Suggestion even for meeting planners to make a video of what you're going to be doing. This is what registration is going to look like. This is what these other aspects are going to, how are we going to eat? I think people, and the other thing I'll say is it depends on what part of the country you're in right now, how you're feeling about this. A lot of
Agreed.
ways. We've interviewed some people from the Northeast. They look terrified. And of course, Florida is somewhat casual, I mean, it really, the challenge is making people feel like things are safe, and it's not necessarily a statistical thing. It's a perception, certainly.
And you have to also understand who your client is and the attendees, right, from an age bracket. I'm going to tell you, if you're 40 years and wiser, you want precautions, right? If you're 39 years and younger per se, maybe you don't think the same way, even though that you would get the same experience from our hotel. But I think if you suddenly have attendees that is maybe a little bit older per se, they really appreciate the safety components, and maybe my hotel goes over the top. We temperature check everybody in a restaurant and everybody coming to the hotel, and that's not the norm even in South Florida. Most places in South Florida, you can walk into a restaurant or into a hotel and you're not temperature checked. But I feel it's just important. But I have not gotten any pushback. Quite contrary, I actually got accolades for taking that extra measure.
Jay, it looks like you want to say something.
Yeah, just to add on to that, I think that every group, every individual attendee is going to make their own decision about what's right for them. So I think it's important that we have the on-site meetings available for anyone that wants to come, feels comfortable coming, and we take all the precautions. But I think having a virtual aspect of it for the near future is going to be very important in a hybrid sense. So anybody that is a little bit older, a little bit more concerned, has to travel internationally, I think having that available to them is going to allow you to also have the live event and then just have the extra people attend virtually. And I think that's the way that we're going to get back to some level of normalcy.
Okay, and Jay, that will be also an opportunity for increased revenue stream, because now you don't only have the 500 or 2,000 people that are attending your particular event. You may have 10,000 people dialing in for only $99 for certain sessions of your particular event. So it might be even a new revenue stream that we have never seen before.
Okay, let me change the subject. Kathy, you said early on, or actually, Heiko, it was you, said, the PCMA folks are saying we need to meet face to face, all right? And I hear that. Nothing replaces live meetings. Nothing replaces face to face. Why is that? Explain that to us. I'll start with you, Jay.
It's just human nature. I think people like the human contact. I think also that when you're at a meeting, you run into people and you chat with people you otherwise wouldn't have. You don't have to go out of your way to send a Zoom invitation to somebody to chat with you. But you see one of your colleagues that you haven't seen in a number of years, and you enter into a conversation and you learn something about them and about their business. And I just think there's a lot more that goes on there. Also, the face-to-face, the energy and the motivational aspects of it just can't be matched when you're on a computer on a small screen. We've all seen it. You get a great motivational speaker in there. The energy and the people walk out of the room saying, yeah, I'm ready to go, let's go. You just can't duplicate it here. And then combine that with the Zoom fatigue now. People are going to be thrilled to see people face-to-face.
Yeah,
there you go.
Absolutely.
Even people they don't like, right?
I'm about to drop my head. But anyways, I think we are creatures of relationships, right? It's just in our DNA. Because when you have professional meetings, right, there's more to just meeting somebody digitally and having a Zoom meeting. But people want to take a relationship to the next level, right? Your network is your net worth. But how do you build your network if you don't know the people, right? We know how fictitious so many connections are on your social media that you have. Are those real connections? Are they not real connections? How do you actually build a real connection? And it is through real life meetings, meeting somebody that you can look straight in the eye, and you can either play the BS card with that person, or you can say, hey, that's the real McCoy. That person, I want to hang on to their coattail.
Okay, Kathy?
I agree. I think especially with the large group that we do convention for, it's, the networking is so important. And of course we have a trade show as well that, even though some of the platforms do have a virtual exhibit hall that people can go through and tour, it's just not the same as the one-on-one. And in the people that there's a lot of chats and things like that you can also do, but it just doesn't replace the one-on-one person and being able to just chat and visit with, go have lunch with, whatever. So I hope that it comes back, and I think that it will, and I think that it's real important. Some groups can do the hybrid thing, and it works well for that group. And I agree with the elderly generation like myself that might prefer to attend virtually, but the people who are out there and marketing and networking with people to get their business, they just prefer the one-on-one. That's by my group anyway. That's the gist that we get. And what works for one group doesn't always work for the next.
Kathy, you're a young chickadoo, but let me piggyback. Let me piggyback on one thing that you said, because I think we need to explore that. If we're looking at certain trade meetings, right, where there is a product that is being presented or products that are being presented, like the boat show, for example, in Fort Lauderdale, right? It's our Super Bowl every year that we have. How would you buy a boat seeing it on Zoom? It's not working. I want to feel that boat. I want to see the engine. I want to be on that boat. And I want to have somebody tell me the story about the boat, right? So when you look at certain events and meetings that are out there, they can only be really successful if you have the product out there and you can touch it, but you can still do it in a safe way.
Fully agree. Jay, let me ask you a quick question. So Heiko has put his hotel has put a lot of money into a lot of safety measures for attendees, which is great. So the $1 million question is this the new norm? Is this what we're gonna have to see everywhere from now on?
Of course, I don't have a crystal ball, but my guess is no, actually. I think we always have to be on top of cleanliness and safety. But I think once there's a vaccine and treatments and people get more comfortable with the situation, I think a lot of this stuff will be relaxed. I don't think you're going to see foggers and thermal scanners and all the stuff we're talking about. But you will see some of the things change. I think some of the food service will change. Some of the things that are in rooms, how room cleaning gets done. I think you will see some changes to it. So there's some aspects that we're going to see, but I don't think this is really a new normal. I think it's a now normal.
Kathy, what are your thoughts about that?
I somewhat agree. I think that, it opened the eyes of a lot of people. And even though we try to be, as sanitary as we can be and, keep things clean and watch where we put our hands and, don't touch surfaces and things like that we kind of all have taken for granted. I know I think twice about some of the things that I start to do and then catch myself and say, I really don't necessarily need to do that. So I think that, some of the things will maybe go on continuously, but I don't see all of the extreme protocols myself.
Yeah, I'm kind of in the NIES with them. I just created a new word, NIES. So pod no, and pod yes, right? I think it's great that some of this actually happened. It's going to make us better operators. It's going to create a more sense on clean facilities. It raises to the bar. Does it go to the extreme of the frequency of the disinfections and what you have? Maybe not, but it has really put a spotlight on our industry that it behooves us to really provide a very clean and sanitary product to the customer, and they pay for it. At the end of the day, they're actually paying for it, and I think we need to uphold our promise to our customers that they're going to be safe, because our number one responsibility as an operator is not that they have a great experience. It's not that they have a smooth check-in. It's that they have a safe environment, not only for the attendees, but for my team members as well, right? That's what keeps me up at night. How do I keep my team members safe? How do I keep my customers and patrons and attendees always safe? So it's kind of a yes for me, just like Jay and Kathy have said, for the same reasons.
Okay. Okay, let me, one thing I will say that has been encouraging through this whole thing is I have seen, we've gone from, wow, we don't know what the heck's going on, to, time to get innovative, time to come up with new ideas, and work together. I think that is incredibly encouraging. I think at first the stories I heard about hotels is they were really kind of playing hardball because they didn't know. They didn't know what was going to happen. And now it's like, no, they were great. We're all working together. We've come up with a solution. And I think everybody's being super flexible. And I think at the end of the day, they know we're going to have to be there with each other when this whole thing is all over. So let's treat each other right when we're in the middle of it. With that, let me ask you, what would you say is your biggest positive takeaway from the whole quarantine so far? Personally, and we'll start with Kathy.
Well, I think just like I was saying earlier, I just feel like it opened my eyes to a lot of things that I was taking for granted, and the things that we do from day to day that we could really do better, and so and patience too is one of the positive things. I'm not a real technical person, so I have been challenged in some areas with some of these platforms, and the more you watch them and the more you deal with them and go through them and watch the webinars, and you feel a little more comfortable with them. So just the learning process has been positive for me, and realizing that things do change, and that you have to change with them. So, I hope that, I can perform the same way, but just get the same success by doing this, whether it's temporary or long-term.
Okay. Heiko?
Well, I think, first of all, the good Lord has challenged us with a reset. And said, hey, listen, you all were moving so fast. You were not really sure what you were doing. And when you take a look how our employment was at its lowest ever, when we were doing so great in business, but we were really focused on what was important in life, personally, I'm sure that there was a higher being saying, like, humanity start sitting down and talk and reset what life is really about and start smelling the roses again, right? I mean, when was the last time that families actually got together every single night and cooked and actually went ahead and sat at the dinner table, right? That just happened now. But I think from a professional aspect, for us to embrace technology more, and I'm part of the generation that kind of grew up with technology, but I still went to a library first, in order to get my intelligence and read a book, right? And now I was being exposed to all kinds of new technology that I didn't know. I think that was refreshing for me, and it could help me in our company or our industry to streamline things better and become more efficient, more practical, and more safe.
Jay?
And Jay?
Ditto to what Heiko was saying, it definitely has been a complete reset. It's allowed us to rethink a lot of the ways that we do things. It's allowed my team to do a lot of training when we're, traveling 70 miles an hour on client programs. It's hard to stop and do some training. So we've had an opportunity to improve our processes, improve our technologies, improve our training. And it's allowed us to, as Heiko said, think about what's really important. Business is business, but life is life. And we're really trying to just make sure that things are safe for our team, for our clients, and we'll all get through this, and we'll be better on the other end of it. It's just a hard journey.
Okay.
Well, I know for myself, one big positive thing was it took me out of my comfort zone. I was so comfortable with a four-wall ballroom. I knew all the technology it took to make a show happen. And now I had to almost reinvent myself and learn, what does a virtual meeting look like? How can I take it out of just a normal window and expand on it and offer to our clients the best experience, as close as an experience as possible to being face-to-face in a meeting. So it grew me. It made me grow.
Okay. And I just have one final question. This is just for Heiko.
Oh, good Lord.
You said it earlier. I'm not sure. Are you saying that all my Facebook friends are not really my friends?
Just think about it. I'm
a little shattered, I gotta say. I'm a little shattered.
I'm already on profile number 2 because they allow you only 5,000. Oh no, everybody on Facebook is really, 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 really close to me.
Great.
Makes me feel good. Well, guys, thank you very much for joining us. You guys shared a great amount of information. Greatly appreciate it. We wish you guys the best during this pandemic. Thank you.
Bye-bye now.
Take care.
Bye.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.